13 days. That's the countdown, not a meme, not a marketing hook. 13 days before a policy switch flips and the silver market you think you understand starts operating under a different set of rules. February 1st, 2026, market. Because once the clock rolls past midnight Eastern, a single executive move can turn today as normal, premiums into tomorrow as good luck finding any. And no, this isn't about some dramatic confiscation scenario. It's about something quieter, colder, and far more effective. Friction, delays, cost stacking, the kind of supply chain squeeze that doesn't need to ban silver to lock you out of it. Because if you can buy silver at a price that makes sense, or you can buy it at all, the result is the same. You're out. What follows is about connecting dots most coverage refuses to connect. About why a tariff headline that sounds like political theater can translate into a very real physical silver problem in your hands. And why this window isn't artificial urgency. It's a countdown driven by shipping cycles, dealer inventory, and the simple reality that you can't teleport metal across oceans on demand. The policy angle looks simple on the surface. A 10% tariff scheduled for February 1st, 2026, targeting imports tied to several European countries. Among them, the UK, Germany, France, the Netherlands, the Nordics. The public debate will focus on politics, Greenland, diplomacy, retaliation, noise. Markets don't trade on noise. They trade on flow, where metal is refined, where it's vaulted, how it moves, who controls it, and how quickly it can be delivered when demand spikes. That's where silver gets interesting. A surprising amount of global silver liquidity doesn't come from mines you can point to on a map. It comes from infrastructure, refining hubs, vaulting networks, wholesale distribution. And one of the most critical hubs sits in Europe, with London at the center. This doesn't mean Europe has all the silver. It means Europe is a major part of the system that makes silver available when buyers suddenly want it. And availability is not the same thing as existence. If the delivery system breaks, the metal might as well be behind glass. The price on your screen becomes a suggestion, not a guarantee. London isn't just a headline city, it's a vaulting hub, a standard setting hub, a pricing hub. When institutions talk about silver inventories, they're often referring to large bars stored under strict rules, tracked through specific vaulting systems. Terms like LBMA, good delivery, eligible, registered, those aren't trivia. They're plumbing. And when plumbing clogs, water doesn't disappear. It just stops reaching your faucet. This is where the tariff deadline stops being abstract. Tariffs change the economics of movement. They determine which import lanes still work, which ones don't, and whether dealers can restock without blowing out premiums. Retail silver runs on thin margins and high volume. Predictable sourcing matters. Predictable costs matter. Add a 10% layer to a key import lane, and that lane doesn't just get more expensive, it can become unworkable. When that happens, everyone crowds the remaining lanes. Availability becomes the real price. 10% sounds small until you stack it with insurance, shipping, financing, handling, storage, and the risk buffer professionals add when the future looks uncertain. Costs don't arrive alone, they stack. And then comes the real accelerant, panic buying. Deadlines create urgency. Urgency creates delay. Delay creates a rush. And when everyone rushes at once, belief doesn't matter. Shelves empty anyway. Here's where the trap forms. There are two silver markets, paper and physical. Paper is easy. Click, buy, watch number move. Physical is different. A paper position is a price position. A physical position is an ownership position. In a supply squeeze, price can lag reality while ownership becomes everything. Spot can look calm. Screens can look fine. Meanwhile, real silver trades hands at prices far above paper benchmarks. That gap isn't theoretical. It's what happens when physical tightens before paper admits it. And silver tightens faster than people expect because it isn't just a stacker metal. It's a working metal. Solar panels, electronics, medical applications, industrial contacts. These buyers don't pause because charts look stretched. They can't. Production lines don't negotiate. They pay or they stop. That's why availability matters more than charts in moments like this. The sequence is predictable. Policy announcement, deadline, positioning, rush, delays, premium spikes, rationing. After that, the market splits into two groups, those who already have metal and those trying to get it. Inventory headlines confuse people because inventory isn't one pile. Eligible metal isn't the same as registered metal. Eligible can stay off limits if owners choose. Registered is what actually stands for delivery. When registered inventory tightens, exchanges pull levers, margins rise, rules shift. Cash settlement gets encouraged. Each lever sends the same message. Physical is tight. That message feeds the squeeze. Tariffs don't show up as a clean plus 110%. They show up as friction, delays, surprise fees, confusion. And friction is where supply chains break. When costs jump suddenly, the fastest movers win. Everyone else freezes. And while they freeze, inventory vanishes. London isn't just a price reference. It's vaults, logistics, standards, and legal structure. Much of the silver sitting there is already spoken for, tagged, contracted, not destined for retail shelves. There's plenty of silver in the world, maybe technically true, but practically useless. The real question is simpler and more dangerous. Is there deliverable silver to the US at prices dealers can actually quote? If the answer turns uncertain, premiums rise first. Selection tightens next. Quote, windows shrink. Once that switch flips, negotiation disappears. You take what's available, or you walk away. That's why it's only 10% misses the point. Silver positions are built over time. Disruption steals time. And time is the one thing supply shocks don't give back. This is where the paper versus physical divide matters most. Paper tracks price, physical tracks availability. In a squeeze, availability wins. And this is where psychology turns dangerous. First, people laugh. Then they dismiss it. Then they get curious. And curiosity is where the real move begins. Eligible metal meets specifications and could be delivered if the owner chooses. Registered metal is specifically tagged and ready for delivery against futures contracts. Those are not the same thing. In a stress scenario, eligible metal does not automatically become registered. Owners can, and often do, hold it back. So when you hear a large inventory headline, the real question is simple. How much is registered, and how fast is it shrinking? Because shrinking registered inventory is what forces real-world responses. Here's the cliffhanger. When registered inventory drops, while delivery demands rise, exchanges have only a handful of levers. They raise margins, they change rules, they encourage cash settlement, and every time one of those levers gets pulled, it sends the same message. Physical is tight. That message triggers a second wave of buying. This is how markets go from normal to chaotic, without spot price moving much at first. That's why waiting for spot to confirm can be a mistake. Spot confirms late, premiums confirm early, availability confirms immediately. Think of a store with 10 items on the shelf and 100 people outside. There were always 10 items. The only variable is who notices first. Now let's talk about the June escalation quietly floating in the background. 10% is the warning shot. 25% is the this just became structural shot. If February feels like inconvenience, June feels like a wall. It's February 2nd. Someone who laughed a week earlier asks where to buy silver. They click through listings. Half say out of stock. The rest say ships in 4 to 6 weeks. Then they see the premiums and ask why everything changed. That's when it clicks. This isn't about charts, it's about pipelines. Some people assume dealers will just import from somewhere else. Some will try. But alternative lanes aren't magic. They're capacity limited. You can't reroute a continent's supply overnight. And even when you reroute, the cost is higher, and higher cost shows up in premiums. Even a short disruption can cause long-lasting damage in a market like silver. Once people lose trust in availability, they stop selling back into the market. This executive move doesn't need to confiscate anything to lock people out. It just needs to add enough friction that normal flows slow down. In a tight market, slowing flow is the same as removing supply. That's how shortages start. That's how premiums explode. And that's how regret replaces metal. Watch shipping cutoffs. Watch delivery guarantees quietly disappear. When that happens, the market is whispering the truth. The product exists, but the pipeline is turning into sand. Time is the advantage. Every day waited is another day the same ounces are chased by more buyers. So don't aim for perfect timing. Aim for certain ownership. Charts can't mail you metal. Pipelines can fail. Even if the politics fade, the supply chain impact doesn't have to. If you choose to move, move early. Give yourself time for shipping and verification. And if you choose not to move, make it a conscious decision, not procrastination. Because when physical premiums move, they don't ask for permission.